You're meeting people all over the country, an alcohol-free community. How is it going? Like, what's the vibe?
I think most people are really excited about connecting to community. They might have seen non-alcoholic drinks on Instagram or other social media, and they're just really excited to experience it for themselves. So these sober people, some of who travel 2 hours or more to these
Wow.
gatherings, and it's the opportunity to become part of this larger movement by forming local connections. Wherever you're at, finding those connections with people who are like you, who are not drinking for whatever reason.
So take me back to your starting point when you decided to start Sam's Bar. What did that look like for you?
It was a decision that I didn't want to make. I kept having this idea for an alcohol-free bar for a long time. I wanted someplace to go personally. I believed that that was something that I needed and other people needed, but I also recognized like it was going to be a lot of work. I was so afraid of the work. I was like, this is so much more than I can do, and I have a full-time job, and it just seemed like it was this hill to climb that was too much. And I was working with the client, and that client was struggling. And the last time we talked on a Friday night, that client said to me that they had been struggling to choose between being social and being alcohol free. And they were, I mean, mid 30s, professional, really, really brilliant. And it just made me so sad that this was what someone had to choose. Well, that client eventually succumbed to their substance use, and that was really the breaking point for me. That made the decision a lot easier. The only thing that was in my mind at that time, rather, was to be be a place where people could find their starting point if they were in that space of deciding whether they wanted to be social or when they wanted to be alcohol free.
So it's an amazing thing. And you were sort of the one that started this whole movement.
I believe that there's really nothing new. That we've really not invented anything new in a millennia, right? Everything's just a recycled, remixed, spin or take on something that's already been done. And one thing that I think we forget in this alcohol-free kind of westernized world is that there's entire civilizations who have never consumed alcohol. They discovered alcohol and said, you know what, it's poison, and they just moved on, right? Like I think we think the idea of not drinking is so so huge and so large, but for most or some civilizations rather, they just don't drink at all. Like it wasn't a thing. Like I saw this happening in the UK, and I saw that the non-alcoholic movement at that point was maybe 5 or 6 years old in 2017, and it was really starting to pick up pace. There was a lot of excitement, there was a lot of great products, there was a lot of spaces, and there was a lot of bars. And so I looked to the UK and other places to get an idea of what that would look like.
So what was the reaction when you first floated this idea, and how has that kind of changed over time?
Oh, I'll never forget the very first article or press mention I ever had was here in Austin, in the local newspaper. And they had a digital version where you could see the story. So I shared it to all my friends and family. And then I made the mistake of reading the comments. You never read the comments. Never read the comments. And in 2017, the idea of a space where people didn't drink alcohol was laughed at. Was literally laughed at. Who's gonna, attend a place like that? Yeah, let's see how this works out in a year. Okay, so what's next? A restaurant that doesn't serve food. I mean, it just went on and on.
Comedian.
Yeah, and it just went on and on and on. All these people laughing. it found its way to Reddit, and same thing. People were just like, this is hilarious. Like, this is such a scam, such a ripoff. Like, why would people ever want to go to a bar and not drink alcohol? Why would people want to go out and not get drunk? That makes no sense to me. Um, but then over time, as Sandspar stood the test of time in that first, you know, 18 months, I think a lot of those detractors and a lot of those skeptics started to really understand the value of what Sandspar was offering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been kind of interesting to see how Sandspar as a brand went from laughter to people, you know, driving 4 hours to come hang out with us, right? Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's really it's such a journey, and it's been a privilege to watch uh, not just Sandspar, but then other iterations of this non-alc, you know, bar and bottle shop uh, spring up across the world. It's really exciting.
So tell us a little bit so we can tell people what it's like what to expect when you go there.
The way I know that Sandspar is where it should be is if I can close my eyes and it sounds like any other bar in America, right? Like if it sounds like any other bar, there's people talking, there's glasses, you know, clanking, there's people shaking drinks, there's just laughter, there's so much energy in the space. That's really how I measure what Sandspar is. But for those who have never been to an alcohol-free bar, yeah, I will say that it's an inviting, warm place. The energy is always just so orange. If that makes sense. Like it's the color orange. It's warm. It's it's it feels like a sunrise. Like it's an incredible experience. And in most bars, you know, you're fighting for your spot to talk to the bartender. You're jostling through all these people to get your, you know, your mocktail or your Shirley Temple or whatever it is that, you know, whatever gross drink they're going to serve you at the regular bar. And when you come to Sandspar, the first thing we do is acknowledge you. First thing we do. The first thing, and I have yet to go into, you know, a busy bar anywhere in the world and be acknowledged. And that's something that I really want to be known for, you know, as a brand. I want Sandspar to be known as a bar that acknowledges you when you walk in. And it's not just a welcome to Sandspar. It's really just making eye contact with you, inviting you over, and offering you a menu. Really want to start off that first interaction with just getting to know you and who you are as a person. Big alcohol has convinced us that we are not enough. And I want Sandspar to be a place where you know that you're enough from the very start, from the very moment you enter the space. So we walk you through the drink menu, lots of samples, lots of like, you know, sips. We don't call them shots, we just like these like kind of group sips. But yeah, the whole idea is yes, there are drinks and the drinks are good. And I think that's a lot of the attention and a lot of the focus is on the drinks. And I'll be the first to acknowledge the drinks are not mind-blowing at Sandspar. They're good. They're tasty.
They're good.
They're worth the money, but they're not like mind-blowingly like out of this park. Wow. And that's intentionally. Like I could go find a bartender that's like gonna blow your mind. I don't want the drinks to blow your mind. I want the interaction that you're having with other human beings to blow your mind. The drinks, just like the music, just like the lights, just like everything else, is just part of a puzzle. And that puzzle is connection. I want you to feel connected. I want you to feel like you are meeting people who will be in your life when things are good and when things are bad. That's why I started Sandspar. I started Sandspar way before there were any of these drinks and these beverages. So while I appreciate them and respect them immensely, that is not why I created Sandspar. I created Sandspar because I want a place for people to gather, because we are lonely and we need each other.
So in the last 2 years or so, I mean, this has really exploded. So you sort of touched on this, but what kind of difference have you seen in that time?
Yeah, it's really interesting that the pandemic, I think it condensed and compressed the energy that was already happening before 2020. There was already a momentum, right? Then from 2017 to 2020, there was a 3-year gap of like, or 3-year, you know, gradual climb towards more people knowing about non-alc and more people embracing it, more brands coming out. There was a huge kind of swell, and then 2020, it just, the world stopped, but the non-alcoholic movement moved faster, I felt. And more people who maybe had always had the idea to start a brand or a beverage, they were out of work or they were at home, and so it gave them the ability to do that in a way that they probably would not have done before. So yeah, I would say that post-pandemic, the non-alc movement has just hit warp speed, and I can't even keep up with all the things that are happening. I also, I mean, and I was one of those people. I saw the pandemic as, obviously hurtful to the business. I had to, I was working, tirelessly to do like a Thursday through Sunday offering at Sands Bar. And it wasn't working. I was really, really tired just getting off the ground and trying to make those many days work. It was a lot. So once the COVID hit, I had to obviously be shut down for a year. So the bar was closed for an entire year.
Wow.
And it forced me to look at how I could shift what I was doing. And as a result of that, I created the Sands Bar Academy.
Yeah.
And that's that's the online course that I've created. And then, so yeah, I think that it's just really, really picked up in the last 3 or so years. And it's exciting to see all of these people entering the category.
I was going to ask you about Sands Bar Academy.
Sands Bar Academy is a 10-week course that I created because so many people would call me all the time or message me and say, "Hey, Chris, just want to pick your brain and how'd you do what you did?" And I'm like, to know really what it takes to start a non-alc bar business, I think it takes a lot more than a phone call. I think it really does take some time understanding like who you are as a person. And so, yeah, I created the Sands Bar Academy. It's especially for those people who don't have a lot of startup capital. I started Sands Bar with $200, and I was not willing to put any more money than $200 into Sands Bar. So all the money that I made, I put right back into Sands Bar and just kept recycling the money, and worked my full-time job until I was making enough money to leave my full-time job and do Sands Bar full-time. So I just didn't have a lot of money. Didn't have a lot of startup capital. I didn't have any business experience, and I didn't have any bartending experience. And for me, I find that a lot of things that are already out there for people creating businesses are for people who like have a lot of business experience or have a lot of money, it's like $800 for Sands Bar Academy over 10 weeks. So it's so doable, right? Because I get it. And I want people to feel like they can get in on the bottom rung. They don't have to have connections and power. You can really build community, and that community is the thing that becomes your marketing team, that becomes your early investors, that become all the things that you need. Community really is the way that I believe businesses are built and sustained, and that's the way I built Sands Bar. So yeah, that's what the Sands Bar Academy is. It's a really concentrated 10-week development, and yeah.
So you do business plan development and idea development and all those things.
Yeah, like business plan development. We talk about business models. We talk about brand partnerships. We talk about creating communities, becoming a leader. We also talk about, and I think this is the coolest one, is we talk about designing experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're talking about not just, hey, if you're going to have a bottle shop, you should have 10 different kinds of spirits, on each shelf. Like that's good. It's practical. You need to know that kind of stuff. But more importantly, like when your customer walks in, what kind of experience are they going to have from the door to the register? Like how are you curating that experience so that people have a good time, but they also come back and also they feel connected. Even if it's a bottle shop, you want to feel that connection. So how can we do that? And in addition to the 10-week course, I also do private calls with each of my students for the duration of the 10 weeks. So it really is a great way to get started in the non-alc business. Some students really go through the program and they realize that they don't want to start a business. What they
Right.
really want to do is they really want to stop drinking. And that's cool and that's okay too. But we just live in a society where we try to monetize everything, even our health. And I think that some people like, oh, I'll start a bar and then that'll help me to stop drinking, which is fine. But they realize like, no, I just need to focus on myself right now. Or some people they realize they have this big grand idea of a bar that they want to create, and it turns out that, oh, that takes a lot more money, a lot more time than I thought. Let me just start doing some pop-ups in my city. Then it kind of evolved from there. So we work you through all that, and then I make all the introductions. Since I know everyone, I just make all the connections to the people that are movers and shakers in this industry. So it's been a cool process to create something like that.
It's really great. It sounds like you're going through a process of like self-searching too. Like, what do I really want? What am I trying to get out of this?
So much of what happens with the business, with any business, is the founder and the founding team. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we talk enough about that. And so I look at it through the lens of like, who are you? What's your story? But also, how are you going to take care of yourself? Are you resting? Are you sleeping? Are you setting boundaries to protect your peace? Like, those are things I don't hear happen a lot in, like MBA school. Like they don't talk a lot about like taking care of yourself and taking care of your mental health. And I refuse to let any of that go. I think that is what is so important and would set the NA movement apart from any other movement, is that we take care of ourselves, but we also take care of each other.
That's great. Yeah, I can tell you there was not a lot of talk about that when I was in school. And it's really important. I did a podcast once. We said, like, once you gain so much time and focus when you give up alcohol, and then what do you do to fill that time? And if you the instinct is to just, now I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to fill every minute. I'm going to do, and instead of taking a step back and saying, how can I just be nice to myself?
Yeah. If you're not careful, work becomes a new alcohol for you.
Right. That's true. What are your predictions for this industry, and what would you like to see? What would you like to see happening next, and what do you think, where are we headed?
I'm very encouraged to see the abundance of non-alcoholic brands continue to grow, and I think that that's going to continue to grow. What I would personally like to see is just continued collaboration, and I don't know how long that's possible, but I think that so much of what makes this movement really, really special is that everyone works with everyone. Mm-hmm. And I get it. At some point, we're going to have to, kind of create territories and things like that. But I think we have a while to go before that happens. And I just want to see that kind of collaboration over competition continue. It's an important thing, because unlike most industries, this is about people making a decision to drink less or no alcohol for a reason. There is a reason.
Right.
We always say that for whatever reason. It's for a reason, though. There is a reason why people are entering this category, even if it's just curiosity. That's a reason. And we have to honor and respect that. And I don't think that it's worth fighting over, it's worth fighting over for you to win, and the consumer and people who are really needing this to live, right? Who are sober serious and who are really lonely and are like that client that I had as, the catalyst in my life. I really don't want those kind of people to lose out because we're fighting over, mm-hmm. Shelf space, or we're fighting over who's the person in XYZ city. I really believe that there could be 100 other alcohol-free bars in Austin, and there would still be a need, because not everyone is going to identify with the Sands Bar brand. Not everyone's going to think that that's what they're looking for, right? Like I think some people are looking for really, really elevated and amazing drinks, and I think that there are plenty of places in and around Austin that do that really, really well. And I think there's going to be some people who are really looking for community and really looking for connection and want to be seen and validated for who they are. They want to go to a drag show sober. They want to go to trivia night alcohol free. They want to do a paint and sip sans alcohol. Like for those people, sans bars there. So yeah, my hope is just that we just keep this sense of collaboration. There's new people coming into the market all the time, and they're going to think that they had ideas for the first time. They didn't, right? Like they didn't. And if you're new into this category as a business, I'm talking more as a business and a consumer here, but like as a business, if you come into this category, don't assume that you've just invented the wheel. Like you didn't. Like there were people here before you, and like I did in this interview, I acknowledge and pay homage to those who came before me, those who were in this field before I was. And I think that that's just an important thing. You will never become an ancestor if you kill your own. And meaning if you continuously dismiss those who came before you, when it's your time to be thought of as a leader and a legend, no one will, because they've learned from you, right? And I want to become an ancestor, right? I want to become someone that people can look at and say, wow, Chris Marshall created this thing. He helped to create this movement. But there were so many other people who were doing this movement with me. I'm not the only one. I'm not the leader. And so, yeah, I just hope that doesn't change, that we don't, for the sake of our own elevation, take away from what other people are doing. Let me tell you something about being first. First is not always cracked up to be. I see a lot of people like the first, and the first pancake and often the first child are not perfect. Right? You know,
I'm a first child.
I'm a first child. So I can say that.
Bumps in the road. Yeah.
I can say that with confidence. The first child and the first pancake are often not perfect, right? And yeah, being the first at things just means that you're the first to absorb all those things, and the people that come behind you learn from your mistakes. So you know, it's almost best to be like second or third, because you get to learn from those who came before. But I just know that my role in this universe is meant to be the first. I'm uniquely created to be an innovator and to be on the cutting edge. You think people are going to take my stuff? They're gonna see what I'm doing, and they're gonna say, "Oh, Chris has done it. That means great. We can be the second pancake," right? Like I get that, and I don't hold any grudges, right? Like I love that because it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me guessing.
I think it just came into my head. That's a great name for a bar. You should have second pancake.
Oh my gosh, yes, because it's so true. Like you just can't really know the first time you do anything. And now people put, you know, this moniker of me, like you're the original, you're the godfather of this. Like you're putting very old terms on someone who does not want to be seen as that. Like I want to be an innovator. I want to be in front. So
right. You know, not the past, not the history.
Yeah. Like I'm very so much forward thinking. So I mean, yeah. Right.
Yeah. I also think, just to touch on another thing you said, like it's important as we all move forward not to lose sight of the people who need this, the people whose lives are at stake, really. It sounds like you hold on to that. Yeah.
Don't lose sight of the sober, serious people. I think people are trying to chase this sober, curious, you know, market of, you know, the millions of people who are identifying as sober, curious. I don't think that that's going to be a forever thing.
No, interesting. Yeah.
I mean, how many curious people can you get, right? At some point you're gonna run out of curious people. And what I've learned is, and this is something that I don't know hard numbers, so I'm not gonna say this as a fact, but what I've just observed is most curious people turn to serious people.
Right.
I mean, because if you do something more than once, are you really curious at that point? Are you really curious? You know, I think you know. So I think that that's just something that's really important, that we look at the entire sobriety spectrum, we respect and acknowledge that. But I just think the weight of a focus that's given to the curious side of the spectrum is unbalanced or imbalanced, and it probably needs to shift a little bit towards the serious side, because I think most people are embracing not drinking or drinking less, which I think is more apt. They're embracing not drinking or drinking less more. So that's going to be the way moving forward, right?
Right. I think the curious people are enthusiastic consumers. Maybe that's why they get the lion's share of attention. They're checking it out, and they're. But it is true. I used to say I was sober curious. It's like when you're not ready to admit yet that you should stop drinking.
Well, and I do think that some people are curious and they're just like, you know what, it's just not for me. And what I've found is that most people, even if they decide like, oh, wait a second, I just am going to continue just to drink alcohol, they continue after that sober curious journey. They do kind of integrate non-alc into their life. I have a friend who continues to drink alcohol, just normal kind of drinker, and he's decided to include a non-alcoholic beer in like his new lineup. He's like, I just love this beer, and it's like I can't find anything else like it. And this is great. Like I will drink my, alcohol beer, but I also will go for a non-alc. This is great. So I think that there's a lot of people who are curious, but again, those people aren't going to totally turn their backs because you say the word sober or say the word recovery or say the word sober serious. I think that there's this huge idea like, can't say any of those things because that'll scare away the people who are curious.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, those are adults. Like, you're targeting adults, you're marketing to adults. And those words, if you really want to end the stigma, stop moving away from those words. Stop whispering sober like it's a dirty word. Right. Stop saying recovery like it's some kind of like disease. Like, if you really want to change and shift the culture, if you're serious about it, not if you're just using it as a marketing voice.
Right.
But if you're serious about changing the culture, then consider embracing the word sober. And you don't have to say that this is a brand for sober people, but say like, and sober people are welcome. And I promise you, those sober people have the same disposable income, and they're the same consumers that are waiting for something to be marketed to them.
What's next for you? I know you're always working on something.
I'm always working on something. So yeah, I am so proud of what I've created with Sandspar, and I look forward to working on Sandspar. It's changed my life. I think it's changed other people's lives. I think the Sandspar Academy has I know it's helped other people launch businesses that they've been able to quit their job and pursue this dream that they've had of a non-alc business. But I like being the first pancake, and there's the griddle's getting full here in the non-alc world. So like I need to jump in a new griddle. And really, I'm thinking about how social media is the new alcohol, and how we use social media just like alcohol.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm working on building my own social media network that is centered around doing good in the world and really changing the way that we interface with social media. So I call it like the gamification of social media for social good. And there's a few models like it that exist. That's the thing, right? It didn't create anything new, right? There's other models that exist like this, but I think that I can put my Chris Marshall spin on it and make it something different. And so yeah, I've already kind of had a beta website started, and I think that's what's next.
We'll talk about this more.
Absolutely.
Our motto is your best life begins after saying goodbye to alcohol. So what is your after? How would you characterize your after?
My after has been is what I would think skydiving would be like. Yeah, I never realized that so much of the life that I was meant to live was meant to be in free fall. Not knowing what's next, not knowing what I'm going to do when I wake up or who I'm going to talk to that day, not knowing the adventures I would go on. So much of my life after alcohol has been about this free fall. And it's been wonderful because in that free fall, I've learned to fly. I've learned to trust myself. I've learned to trust other people. I've learned to create community. I've seen people decide to save their own lives. I've watched as friends became lovers and got married because they met at Sam's Bar. I've watched my own children sit at the bar and ask me to make them a drink. And I know that I can serve them something because it's good stuff for them. I've watched as and then participated and felt as I've moved my own body and dance. I've swirled around this country, and yet I come home to this wonderful, wonderful place and this wonderful bar with wonderful people. So much of my life has been free fall after alcohol, but I've definitely learned to fly.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for everything you do. It's really great to see you and chat with you.
Yeah, we got to chat more.
Yes, for sure. Cool. Excellent. Thank you.